2 points worth making here. I've received endless correspondence via Facebook, email and plenty of people calling my radio show today saying that they couldn't give two stuffs about the American election. Why does an American presidential election mean anything to us in Australia? Why do people like me spend so much time talking about it on television? Well, the answer is pretty damn obvious. I want to take you back to 2008. Not just around this time in 2008, but in the lead up to this time in 2008, when the American economy started to tank, when stupid deals were done by Wall Street bankers, overbetting on futures, the American economy started to tank. When the subprime mortgage market in places like Las Vegas started to tank, so did the entire global economy. Problems happened in Europe and problems happened here in Australia. Things got so bad that, remember, the government had to turn around and hand out $900 cheques to many Australians. That's because of what happened in the United States. Australia went to war in Iraq because the United States believed that it was the right thing for us to do. We are still in Afghanistan despite that horrible death toll because the Prime Minister keeps saying that we need to remain focused on the mission. Our mission is inextricably linked to what the United States is going to do. Our troops will pull out at the same time as the American troops, and not because there's any pressure from you or me or even from Australia. It's because that is the date that is convenient to Barack Obama in order for him to campaign for the American presidency. Their economy matters. Who manages their economy matters. Whether there is going to be a war with a place like Iran matters. How they deal with China matters. So as annoying as it might be that we talk constantly about states that many of us have never visited and some that we've even, frankly, never even thought about since this time 4 years ago, it profoundly matters. But secondly, I want to cast your minds back too about this time on Melbourne Cup Day 4 years ago, when Barack Obama absolutely hit it out of the park and had 250,000 people at his victory rally in that park in Chicago. Whether you would have voted for him or not, there was a definite feel in the air that something was going to change. Now, I know that the term change has been overused and the rock star factor was pretty unrealistic, but there was a very genuine belief that America needed to change the way that it did business. Barack Obama was the vessel with which that change was being expressed. People who had never voted before or people who had only voted for the first time cast a vote for Barack Obama. In fact, first-time voters and long-time absentee voters were the very reason why Barack Obama won at all. If the same numbers of people voted in 2004, with not a single new person joining the electoral roll by 2008, John McCain would be the one going for his second term, not Barack Obama. So it was this hopey-changey thing that was able to bring so many people to the ballot box and ultimately deliver Barack Obama the presidency. If Barack Obama wins tomorrow, and by any reading of the opinion polls, I think that seems to be the way that it's going, he'll only just eke it out. He's not going to have 250,000 people at his victory rally. Sure, he'll have a few, but it's not going to be 250,000 people. People aren't buying T-shirts and doing posters and getting tattoos and all of that weird rock star stuff that was happening. But before people want to immediately suggest that it's the Tea Party and the right-wing Republicans who did this to Barack Obama and his people and supporters here in Australia need to understand that, in part, Barack Obama did it to himself. Barack Obama was handed the biggest electoral blank cheque the world had seen for a very, very long time, and he grossly misspent it. He, for some reason, let professional deal makers and rather dodgy politicians in his own party, who were there in full control of the House and the Senate, screw up lots of decisions. Unlike when George W. Bush had eked out his victory in 2000 and eked out a slightly bigger victory in 2004, Barack Obama didn't know how to negotiate. He didn't know how to make that cheque work. And, torturing the metaphor, the whole thing went on to be bounced 2 years later in the midterm elections, when the only people who were left in the Republican Party were the far right wing, the Tea Party, who took over. They eventually were able to take back by some margin the House. And it meant that for the next 2 years of his presidency, the sole job of the people in the opposite party was to ruin him and knock him out of office. Now, anything can happen, but I'm fairly confident in saying they will fail in that goal. But what is going to happen tomorrow is not just the headline about who's going to be president. It's going to be who's in charge of the House, who's in charge of the Senate. Remember, if a president wants to go off to war, they need the Parliament, the Congress, to agree that it's the right thing to do. If he wants to stimulate the economy, he'll need the Parliament to do it. If he wants to get anything done, he will need to work with the people that have tried to push him out of office for the best part of the past 4 years. And that will be a fascinating lesson for us here in Australia. Now, we know that governments are often handed huge majorities when it's a change of power, but slowly they get eked out. Slowly they have to learn how to negotiate with the other side. And right now, as we know, it's a hung parliament in this country. How Barack Obama presumably governs his version of a hung parliament for the next 2 years before we all start talking about Hillary in 2016 will be fascinating to watch. It matters. It matters about the compromises he's willing to make and not willing to make. It matters for the economy, for war, and ultimately for little island getaways like us.